What would I do? I think I would scream his name. Yunasha, he had fallen asleep while sitting on the ground and precariously leaning his head on the side of your mattress. With your shout, Ko's eyes snapped open and his head slipped from its source of support. He didn't stop going until he smacked right into the floor with a crack. Wait. Reading comprehension? Why do I keep clicking load instead of log? He'd fallen asleep while sitting on the ground and precariously leaning his head on the side of the mat. That must have been so uncomfortable. With your shout, Ko's eyes snapped open, head slipped source of support. He didn't stop going down until he smacked right into the floor with a crack. You clamped a hand over your mouth and looked down at him with wide eyes curled up where he landed rather ungracefully. You laughed quietly, you laughed loudly. Are you okay? You helped him up. Shh, my moms are gonna hear us. I'd probably be like, are you okay? You once had a tumble, hoping no one else in the house had heard either of your outbursts. Yeah, I'm alright. Ko rubbed at his forehead a little, and you weren't sure that was entirely true. If either of your moms found out Ko had slept here last night, the two of you would be in big trouble. Ko blinked at you a couple of times, his eyes growing in panic as some thought that only he could hear settle in his mind.
Oh my god!
I fell asleep! You weren't exactly sure what to do as you watched Ko pace your room, looking around frantically. Ko stopped mid-step, and you wanted to ask what he had been searching for, but you guessed he wouldn't know the answer of that for himself. Despite that, he hadn't calmed down completely. The atmosphere was still frazzled. It's going to be alright. We're going to be in so much trouble. Just calm down. Settle down before moms hear you. You didn't say anything. I feel like no matter what, we're kind of screwed. Because, like, you know, if he leaves the way he came, people are going to see that, right? Like, at night it's fine, but in the day it's like, but then it's all, and then like, and he can't go out the front door. My mom's will see. We're going to be in so much trouble. You could feel your throat grow tighter and the air struggle to hit your lungs. As lazily as you thought about all the possible punishments your parents might give you. Summer was just beginning. You couldn't imagine having to stay cooped up in your house for the rest of it. That was just barbaric. Letting out a heavy sigh, he ran a hand through his hair in exasperation. He couldn't look at you again as he spoke. What? You're just what? I'll see you later. You're confused by how all of this had played out, but hope that was true. Right? Bye, Cove. And that you were suddenly wrapped up in a tense embrace. As panicked as he was, this seemed to be something he couldn't forget before leaving. Thanks again. You're a good friend, Z. He firmly whispered the words into the top of your shoulder. But you were let go before you had a chance to respond or even fully react. Is he leaving out the window or the front door? In a matter of seconds, he had climbed over your bed and opened the window. Colby's rolled off the ocean, fluttering through Ko's hair and filling your room with its salty scent. Cove fearlessly stepped out onto the ledge. You wished him up, you rallied him to keep going. He sneaked out the door instead. You urged him to hurry up. I feel like we have to suggest for him to sneak out the door because the window is just so many people can see it. Imagine if his dad or my mom's or my sister was out there and they were just like, oh, I saw him leaving out your window in the morning. Like, you know, like, that just seems like bad news. His confidence aside, going out the window might not be the best idea. The thought of him getting hurt was even worse than being caught. You don't have to go out that way. I can cover for Fee if you use the door. You weren't sure if he heard you or not, but he kept going along, one foot in front of the other, with increasing speed until his form disappeared out of sight. You stuck your head out the window as far as it could go to try to keep watching. He walked the full length of the ledge before jumping down to the top of the garage, then lowering himself onto the fence. From there, he finally dropped down to the ground. He threw out a thumbs up at his successful climb. He ran off towards his house without stopping, disappearing behind the side of another building. You had to admit that you were pretty impressed at how doable he made that look. With a little sigh, you reclosed your window, deciding there was nothing more you could do. You hopped off your bed and get ready to head downstairs for the day. I swear someone's gonna mention, like, yo, what was he doing in your room? You put on your slippers, you checked yourself in the mirror, you made your bed, you just left. I think at that age, would I check myself in the mirror? I think I'll just leave. You just left. It was too early to do anything else. You took the stairs, slowly attempting to mask your face into a look of innocence. You were sure that someone would have come into your room if they had heard anything strange, but you couldn't be too careful if you had to play it cool. When you stepped into the living room, Elizabeth was there tapping her finger on the dish. Good morning, Elizabeth. She looked at you over immediately, her eyes squinting at the greeting. Why are you being so weird? You hadn't even done anything. Your big sister never missed a beat, unfortunately. He turned and offered a tight smile, and her lips pursed together even tighter. Z? You shrugged it off and climbed up. Wouldn't you like to know? Sorry, you excitedly birded it out. You folded. I don't think I would fold. I think I would still... See, I'm a bad liar. I mean, just as you saw when she was going downstairs, I'm like laughing. So I'd probably shrug it off. I'm not. You spoke so nonchalantly, you almost thought she believed you. But she knew better. Further suspicious squinting occurred as she waited for something. But ultimately she rolled her eyes and you weren't sure if you were in trouble or not. She didn't seem to care enough to dig any further. Whatever. And then she walked straight out the front door, letting it slam shut behind her, and you let out a brief sigh. Elizabeth went out most days to hang out with her friends from school and around town. Today you were extra glad for it, though you were also grateful she hadn't left the house any sooner and risked running into Cove. It looked like you were getting away with that. Breakfast was eaten in peace and alone. Your moms were both out by the time you had gotten up. They had left you a serving of food from the breakfast they had made, hash browns, an omelet, fruit salad, and there were a few sausage links. You took a little bit of everything. You passed on some parts because there weren't things you liked in there. You passed on some parts because you were trying to avoid meat. You passed on some... Okay, that's... So not really not the bottom two. I gotta see what they said exactly. Hash browns are good. Omelet. Fruit. Yeah, I get everything. You took a little bit of everything. It was tasty. You appreciated that there was a variety in the meals your moms made. The day lazily drifted by. You pulled open the fridge again, lingering in the frosty air for a moment or two before grabbing a bottle of ice-cold water and taking a long drink. It was a perfect, balmy summer afternoon, and you had decided to head outdoors and find something to do. You hadn't decided what that something was just yet, but you were sure something would pop up to occupy your time. As you were heading out the front door, you were paused for a moment. You hadn't seen Cove since he had left that morning, and you couldn't help but think about what had happened to him. Would it be bad to go over to his house right before now, or to call him to check in? You stepped out of your house, still stuck in an internal debate with yourself, when a voice caught your attention. Hi, Z. Confused, you looked over to where an unrecognizable woman was aiming at you. A friendly smile plastered on her face. You racked your memory for where you might have seen her, but nothing came to mind. Not your school, or from the country club your moms took you to. Oh, we rich. You had absolutely no idea who the woman was. The woman crossed the road towards you, and you were a little unsure whether you should stay or put or go back to the house and lock the door. Oops, I'm sorry. Was that presumptuous? I've heard about you, but you had no idea who I am, do you? You shook your... That's the mom, isn't it? You shook your head and she removed her sunglasses to reveal sparkly ocean blue eyes. All of a sudden she seemed a little more familiar. My son lives here and my ex too. With a bent smile, she lifted a hand to point at the condo across the street from your own house. She was Cove's mom. You didn't know why you hadn't realized sooner now that you've gotten a good look at her. She seemed nice. She seemed sort of strange. She looked really young. Does she? It made sense that she was Cove's mom. She was so different to Cove. She was so pretty. It made sense that she was Cove's mom. They had the same eyes and other physical traits in common. I wonder where he gets those wavy eyebrows from. No matter your thoughts on her, you still felt taken aback that she had appeared here so suddenly. Cove mentioned that she was coming, but you hadn't gotten the impression it would be the very next day. She extended a hand again, this time for you to take, and you studied the manicured fingers in front of your face and the assortment of bracelets that dangled from her wrist. I'm here. I swear I've seen this name before, and I don't know why I'm blanking on the pronunciation. I'm Kira Priest. You can call me Kira. Kira? I'm gonna go with Kira. You shook her hand. You didn't shake her. I would shake her hand. Reached out and took her hand, and she shook yours firmly, grinning wide. I'm Z, but you already know that. Cove's mentioned you to me before. It's nice to officially meet you, Z. Cove talked to you about talk to you about his mom, and he hadn't mentioned how he said things about you to her? What has Cove said about me? What are you doing here? Nice to meet you. You kept quiet. I'd be curious what he said about me. Oh, I can't tell you that. I've already said too much. She laughed good-hearted. Naturally, you couldn't be happy about that answer, though. The sound of a door opening and closing caught both your attention, and when you turned toward the sound, it was to find Cove exiting his house, his eyes skimming the ground. Considering just how tall he had grown, you kind of figured his mom also would have been tall, but she was much more on the short side for an adult, anyway. Cove's height must have come from his father. She's kind of short. My baby. There you are. I thought you were going to keep me standing out there all day. You tried to catch Cove's eyes as he walked toward you, but his gaze was firmly fixed on the sidewalk. When he finally crossed the road and looked up, he gave you a pitiful look. After the way he'd acted last night, you knew he must be feeling pretty mixed up about this. You tried to wordlessly express that you understood. Cove and I are heading into town to grab something to eat while the snore is at work. Kira beamed at Cove and ruffled his hair, which only seemed to upset him more. You assumed the snore she was talking about was Mr. Holden. Hey, you should come with us. Yeah, I'd love to get to know you better. Yeah, you should come. There was a pleading in his tone that you couldn't miss. Of course we'll run it by your parents first, responsibility and all that. Huh. I think at that age, I would have just been like, let's go. Who cares about my parents? But I guess this is the age where I should be asking my parents. It'll give me an excuse to meet them, which I need to do at some point. It's important to be neighborly if I'm going to be roosting on this street for the time being. Any whoosies, let's go. Kira walked ahead towards your house, and you hung back with Cove, who crinkled his nose as you watched her. I'm sorry about her, but I really do want you to come. I don't want it to be just the two of us, not right now. You leaned in closer and whispered while checking around for anyone who might hear. What happened? Did your dad know you were gone? Cove shook his head and sighed heavily. Dad was so focused on Mom showing up that he didn't even notice. I thought when I heard them on the phone last night that it was something they were planning for the future. This morning Dad said it was supposed to be a surprise, and I guess I was surprised. Just gonna be here all summer. Oh. He was surprised to hear that too. Cove sighed again, and again even heavier. I'll go with you if you really want me to. He smiled, his shoulders relaxing a little in relief. Thanks, that'd be cool. The two of you headed over to where Cove's mom had just knocked on your front door and stood behind her. Mom answered the door after a minute, her eyebrows lifting in surprise at the group she found in front of her. You realized that, like you, she would have no idea that it was Cove's mom who was hanging with you. However, after blinking at the woman a couple of times and looking between her and Cove, the realization seemed to strike on her. Hello there, I'm Pamela. So that's her name. I see you've met my kid, Z, and I'm guessing you've already known Cove for a while. Kira laughed, and you and Cove exchanged looks at your parents' weird sense of humor. I'm Kira Priest, Cove's mom. It's so nice to meet you. A head of purple-brown hair caught your eyes as Ma popped up behind her mom, squeezing herself in beside her. We have company? I was wondering what all the commotion was. She grinned excitedly at Kira. The two of them introduced themselves and shook hands. Hello. Hi, Z, Cove. Cove smiled at Ma shyly, and she gestured as a hand towards the living room. There's no use hanging around in the doorway. Why can't you come in? I'd love to, but I promised to take my son out to eat, and I wouldn't want to hold you up with a surprise visit. Aw, I understand. You're welcome to stop by anytime. I'll take you up on that offer when I can. Count on it. Would you mind too if Z went with Cove and I? My treat. We won't be driving, just a quick walk down the road. Sure, that sounds nice. I hope you all have fun. You gave your moms a look and they smiled at you fondly. You were happy they were letting you go. You were annoyed they agreed just like that. I would be happy. You could tell that Cove really needed that sport and you were ready to be there for him. Expect us back in an hour or two. And we look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Your parents waved goodbye to the three of you as you backed up onto the street. There was the sound of the front door closing behind you. I'm pretty positive I saw some restaurants when I was in the taxi not too far from here. Yeah, it's a tourist town, isn't it? There's a lot of them around. It's kind of strange to see Cove give someone this much attitude. If he wasn't in the mood to be nice, he generally just kept to himself. Kira put her hands on her hips and smiled at her son. You sound like the area expert. Do you have any recommendations for a place nearby? Not really. Kira pouted at him a little and turned to you and said, How about you, Z? Want to point me in the right direction?